Good morning, world changers. It's Suzy Beaumont here, and it is day 5 of creating your personal development plan to self-actualization. With me is transformation coach Will Murtha, and today we're looking at level 5 of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the development model, which outlines the 5 basic principles to becoming your true, authentic, congruent self. Maslow's model has the aim of reaching the point of self-actualization, which he believed was a state of everything you are capable of becoming. And that is what we're exploring today in Maslow's model. This is a level that we're all working towards and hoping to reach. Maybe you've already reached it, Will. I don't know. I feel like I've been there at times in my life, but right now I don't feel like I'm quite self-actualizing. But yeah, I think the best place to start, I suppose, is let's explain what self-actualization is, like, so that our audience members, our listeners, know when they've reached it, what it looks like, what it feels like, and what they can expect. What are they looking for?
I mean, the first thing to kind of say is that apart from the fact that Maslow, this was the body of his main work. This was what Maslow was talking about in the, when we get everything, all those levels that we've gone through the last several days, when we get to start getting up to a point where we can actualize our potential, we can tap into the gold that we've not been able, our creativity would be a good example. Our inner senses, which are, insight and imagination and inspiration and creativity, when we're able to start really living from a true, authentic, compassionate place where we're aligning what we hope to become with what we're actually doing on the outside, when there's a congruent mix alignment there between who we say we are and who we project out into the world, all of these things are living a self-actualized life. Now, we've got to be careful because although Maslow talked about a peak, it was we're on the 5 level now, Susie, aren't we?
Yeah.
We've got to be careful that there is no actual real peak because it's actually there's not a glass ceiling. It is limitless.
Yeah.
So, when we think we've reached, I know this from a point of view of coaching some amazing people at the top of their game in all different industries, even when they get to the perceived peak of what they looked back several years ago, when they actually get to the peak, they go, oh, there's loads more space to go as well. So they then, become even a better sports person or a better TV producer or a better CEO of a company or a better father or mother. Whatever your thing is,
Or they
there is
change
no peak.
direction completely. Like they do
Yeah,
that for a while, and then it's like that
yeah,
leads on to something else.
yeah. So for me, self-actualization is we have this divine creative potential inside of us, which life kind of batters out of us. And when we can get focused and get disciplined and really start to work out what's important and what's not important, shut down all the external noise, which doesn't really, we kind of know that, a society of informed, happy, insightful, confident people can't be controlled. So, at the end of the day, self-actualization is really knowing who you are, and you don't need any brands, you don't need any boss, you don't need any partner, you don't need any governments to tell you who you are.
Yeah. And that's an interesting, because we did touch on this in day 1. It's that you cannot be controlled when you're in this state, because you can't be sold to, because you don't need these external brands or these products or anything to
Yeah.
establish who you are and give you that status and recognition. You know who you are, you're comfortable in who you are, and you don't need these external sources. You're just being. And I suppose it might be like what I would imagine enlightenment is. You don't question it, you're just in your flow, you're just doing, you're just being, you're just showing up, and everything's it's almost on autopilot because you're in your natural state. And I think, I know I've certainly experienced it, but it's interesting because my next question was, can we stay that? Is it realistic? Can we stay in a state of self-actualization, or do we reach a certain level and then it's like we go on to the next thing? There's another area of growth.
But personal opinion, I think it's a bit like emotions. I think everybody wants to have happy emotions, good, loving, joyful, ecstatic emotions. That is not real life. That's only half of life. That's the light, isn't it? As opposed to the dark. So we've got to have the dark, depressing feelings that go with it. That's the counterbalance to life. Because if you haven't got polarity, if you didn't have dark to show what light is, light wouldn't really know what light is, would it? So we need an up and down.
You want to understand it, you want to appreciate it.
So we need context. We need
Yeah.
context. And I think with self-actualization, no, I don't think it's a place that you get to and just stay there, because that's not real life. But it's something that it's a state, an emotional state. It's a mindset that you can live in more and more as you get the rest of your life into kind of order. And sometimes we might not see it in ourselves, Suzy. Sometimes we might see it in other people. I mean, how many times have you gone to an event at work, met in a social circle, watched on TV, where you've looked at someone and gone, oh my God, they seem to know exactly what they stand for.
Yeah.
They seem very genuine, very compassionate, very relaxed, can take criticism without getting defensive and triggered. They seem to have had, got their shit together.
They're on it.
And they're on it. And they've got an efflorescence, an energy, a presence, call it, about them that you think, that's what I would love to role model myself on. I know I've met a lot of inspirational kind of aspirational people like that. I've coached a lot of them. And I kind of think to myself, there is someone who's showing up for who they really are, warts and all. There is someone that is exuding all the human flaws and the good stuff as well. And they seem to know who they are and where they're going. And if we looked at two letters, it kind of encompasses it really, doesn't it? B. When we are being who we really are, you can't argue with that. It doesn't even matter if they've got a bad background or they might come out of prison or done this. When someone is living their truth authentically, it goes beyond just an observation. You actually feel it. I remember going to meet people, interviewing people for my second book, and second book was Visionaries, and it was people that had become a global change maker. And when you sit with someone that is honoring their passion and honoring their purpose and living congruently and with authenticity and compassion, empathy for others, and they can laugh at themselves, they're very humble, it is a magical experience.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've been in the presence of people myself, and you can just feel it oozing out of them. There's just this calm kind of collective presence about them that is actually really attractive to be around. You want to hang out with them, you want to be with them, and you just enjoy being in their company. And I think this is the important thing to highlight when we do reach this point of self-actualization, is the ripple effect that it has for, not just ourselves, but, our family life, our work life, just how we show up in the world and everything, and how it all flows in a life feels easier. I think that's the key thing.
In flow, we're talking about flow, aren't we? We're talking about flow state. So in positive psychology, they came up 25 years ago with, what is flow state? Flow state is living in a place where you're absolutely present, you're doing what you love, time seems to go, there's no effort because it's effortless, because you're not trying to be anyone else, you're just being you.
Yeah.
You're
not going against yourself.
You're not
meeting any resistance. Yeah.
There's no resistance. You're literally flowing along. People will love me. Some people won't like me. That's just, I'm not for everyone and they're not for me. And literally, when you start getting in this state, sometimes you're not even aware that you are that person that you might be, your self-actualization might be that great vibration that other people are getting off of you. because, we're either sitting with people that are in this emotional state, or we are that emotional state without realizing it, and we're giving out to the world and people around us. So, the workplace is a great example of that, isn't it? There are some people that are, really good fun to be around. They're energetic when they're in the office. The office feels alive. It feels vibrant and creative and innovative. And then there might be a couple of people we work with that are like energy vampires.
Yeah.
And literally, it's like they're dementors, in Harry Potter, the dementors suck all the life force out of the
Yeah.
room, don't they?
Yeah.
And they're literally like dementors. And actually, it's an energy game, Suzy. This is what we're talking about, isn't it? We're talking about when you reach self-actualization, you are pushing out a lot more vibrant life force and energy for other people to kind of pick up on. But you're not really doing it with any conscious intent. You're just being it.
Yeah, definitely. And when you have a manager, a boss, or a leader that is self-actualizing and is in that place, it is just incredible to work for
Selfless.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Selfless.
it's incredible to work for that. And what it does, it transforms the workplace. So for any leaders listening to this, do your personal development so you can get to your self-actualization, because the productivity in your workplace will go up tenfold. Be conscious of this glow of light that suddenly
Oh,
come
no,
in here.
it's
It's my
fun.
halo.
It is fun.
Um, yeah, I mean, one thing, so Maslow talks about that his theory was that in all of us, we have this innate desire to grow, to become all that we can be.
Yeah.
And another humanistic teacher is Carl Rogers, and he
Yeah.
believed that, we are becoming us is what it's all about, this innate desire. But what is it? And we see this, like both of us, when we work with clients, they do want to become more. They want to be self-improved. They want to get better at what they do. They want to reach what we're talking about today. They want to self-actualize. But what about the people that don't take up any kind of personal development? They don't take up coaching. They don't do their own self-improvement. What's going on there? What's stopping them? Because that innate desire is apparently, if we listen to the theory, is in all of us. So what is it that's stopping people becoming more than they are, becoming everything that they are capable of becoming?
Whoa, that's a big question.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Why would I mess around with the small ones?
Right. So start off with an acorn. State off, it's a great example, which is, a well-worn metaphor. The acorn that we look at has the DNA, the potential for this mighty oak tree, isn't it? Right. So the potential is in the acorn. That doesn't mean the acorn is going to utilize that potential, because, some people, we might, for whatever reason, that acorn might just have not seeded. It was thrown in the field and it just never took. So it never fulfilled its potential. Human beings, to a degree, are like that as well, that we've all got this DNA, this acorn potential, this oak tree potential inside of us. Why do some people actualize it and why do some people not? Well, there's a number of reasons, isn't there? Sometimes we don't simply believe it. Good things happen to other people, but not us. Sometimes we're so caught up in our own head that, with fear and I'm not enoughness and all the other negative stuff, which we call a fixed mindset. Sometimes we're always caught up with, oh, this is just who I am. How many people have we met, Suzy, in our life?
Just who I am.
My dad always was like this.
Yeah.
This is just who I am.
I can't change it. Yeah.
Can't change it. So if people have got a fixed mindset, they're never going to grow beyond the capacity of what they believe is their own boundary line, what is potentially possible. Oh, my dad was this, my granddad was this, I will be the same. Okay, again, I'm not going to change models, that. Isn't it? I'm not going to change that mindset.
Yeah.
Whereas look at someone else, they might have come from India, their family came over in the 70s or something and they were working in the fields and they decided to give their children a lot better example. So they went through school, really scrimped and slaved to go through university. All their three children become doctors. I mean, I'm going to an extreme here, but what they believed in is that the human potential, the self-actualization potential, is that if we put the work in and believe it's possible, and really do the heavy lifting, we can be better than my parents and grandparents who had bad hands and bad knees because they worked in the fields, for 50 years, even in the bad weather. They believed that they could do something better. So I think it's a multi-complex question. Why do people grow and why do people not? Well, think of a plant. The plant's got to have the right fertile soil, and it's got to be in the right position with the right temperature and the right light. Well, people are the same. Only swap environment for people and soil for people you hang around with. Swap sunlight for kind of what you're exposed to and what you read. Temperature is kind of who might you be hanging around with, and what negative media are you taking on board. So we're still organic beings, and we're no different to a plant. A plant will have its potential to what it can grow to, and human beings have got their potential to what they can actualize to. Doesn't mean we're going to take it up, for a number of reasons. But when we do, watch out, because the magic that comes, that you start to believe that you are infinitely greater and more than you've been told. You might have had a parent that, it might be, let's talk about Catholicism, going back a few hundred years ago, it would very much have been about, know your station, don't step out of line, don't kind of, go beyond yourself. Your parents, they were happy with that humble life, and you will be happy with that humble life. And actually, it could be conditioning why you don't believe you can become more. But when you engage in a personal development project and decide to start working on yourself and growing and developing a growth mindset, watch out, because it's unlimited. It's going to take you to places that are going to give you a great life, mostly. And at the end of the day, you're going to experience things that you never thought possible, because you are not constrained. And, it comes back to mindset. Mindset is a really easy way of looking at it, that half glass full, half glass empty. It's the same glass, it's the same amount of water, but different way of looking at it. If you look at your life, that lots of brilliant things are possible, and I can actualize the best potential in myself, you're in the game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Who was it that said, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right? Is it Jim
Henry
Ford?
Ford.
Oh, Henry Ford.
Yeah.
You just reminded me of when you're talking about the plants there and what we need. So, I mean, this is why Carl Rogers also believed that we all have this innate desire in us to grow, because he observed, like, so potatoes, we've all seen it, we've chucked them in the cupboard, it's dark, they're still in the bag, all the rest of it, and they still, all these sprouts grow out of them, and they're in, they're not in fertile conditions, they're not in, they've not got natural sunlight and light and all the rest of it, yet they're still attempting to grow. You see these sprouts looking for the light, looking for the desire to grow and become something more. And that's where his theory came from, following on from Maslow as well, that, we do have this innate desire to grow. And this is why he built on Maslow's hierarchy of needs as well, because we're talking about, you've got that innate desire, you start there. So then it's about building the resources, the personal security, the foundations that we need to reach to that self-actualization. So, you just reminded me of that. And I just think it's such a simple story. Like, and we joke about it in our college course, my psychotherapy course, about, we're all potatoes, essentially. We're all looking to grow. We're all looking, trying to find that sources of support and light and the resources we need to grow. So again, it's coming back to that, the role models and who we have around us, but that fixed mindset and trying to change that. I mean, essentially, what we've got to at this point when we're in self-actualization, we've essentially created the backbone, the scaffolding that, has allowed us to get to this point. The key is to maintaining that scaffolding, isn't it? That backbone. How do we prevent self-sabotage? Because we can, I've seen it time and time again. I've experienced it myself. You will be focused on a point, you're reaching that point, you've got your goal, and then you get it, and then you sabotage it through, I don't know, is it lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth, self-belief that you deserve it? Or is there something missing along the scaffolding that we need to develop to maintain that?
I think it's all of the above that you've just mentioned. But I always come back to an exercise that I do with clients called Feed Your Needs. Because, we've all got the common needs, haven't we? I mean, what would be the common human needs? You talked about we almost come in pre-programmed, regardless of who we grow up with. We're kind of pre-programmed like the acorn to stretch to its potential. We know this with all the scientific literature around adopted children. Doesn't matter where they've come from, they can still do amazing things. So it's not about, it's a mixture of nature and nurture. Well, I think we come pre-programmed in with certain human needs. So we've got a need to belong. We've got a need for love, like receive love and give love. We've got a need for being respected. We've got a need for justice. I mean, one of the biggest things that will wind people up about anything, the post office kind of example has showed that recently, hasn't it? If there's no justice, everything else falls apart. So, we've got a need for connection, to be listened to be understood, appreciated. We've got a need for, I believe, meaningful, purposeful work. We've got a need for emotions. We've got a need for having value. We've certainly got a need for relationships. So all of these are common needs that are there from the very beginning. And I think when I find that clients sort of a bit bored, getting a bit distracted, getting a bit tired, getting a bit kind of, out of sorts and confused about what the next step is. I think when people forget to honor their needs, they start to fall off and almost like imagine a picture coming down that 5 stories that we've built up with Maslow's hierarchy, 5 levels. We can very quickly, almost like a game of snakes and ladders, go down a big snake and go back down to the bottom again. That's what you're kind of saying, isn't it? We can work through the game of life. We're going up them ladders. We have a few snakes, go through the ladders, a few more snakes, and we eventually get to Maslow's top tier, which is almost like the top 1 or 2 levels of the snakes and ladders board. I think there's 10, isn't there, on the snakes and ladders? Well, we can often do things that do self-sabotage, and we get on that great big long snake, one in the board game where it almost goes from the top layer to the bottom layer.
You're like, what?
That is possible, and that is life. But what we can do to avoid that is often realize that we're a constant reinventing of ourselves. And sometimes when we get what we think we wanted and we get there and we go, oh, I don't feel any better now. I'll give you an example. I remember a story years ago, American girl picked up on the American system for gymnasts, young aspiring gymnasts, I think at age 5 or 6, went right through the program, lots of sacrifice for the next 20 years, finally won a gold medal in the Bird's Nest Olympics of China, 2008, I think it was. Woke up the next morning with a gold medal around her, thought that she would feel completely different, self-actualized, completely different about her world, realized I feel still the same. And what she kind of realized is she becomes so obsessed with the actual prize at the end of it, a gold medal in her case, and had not paid enough attention to being present and enjoying the journey, which is a great metaphor for life. And I think what we've got to do is realize that self-actualization is not a destination. It's a process to work towards, to get towards, almost like a magnet that pulls us towards a certain place. But when we get there, we don't stop, because a bit like you get up the top of a mountain peak, your job's not done. You might look across 100 miles and there's another mountain that you've got to climb again from the bottom.
Yeah.
So self-actualization is not an ultimate place. It is a process of getting to utilize and unleash your highest potential. And I think we have to get really definite. That's a really strong metaphor, that gold medal with the Olympian, because I keep thinking of that when I'm coaching people that have become a great influencer and they've got 10 million followers, or a TV person that's on 3 different shows a week now, and I've coached them and they thought they were going to a particular place. But when they get there, they've got to start setting some new goals and new aspirations. Why? Because they've actually become, going up the mountaintop, or you could say going up Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid, the actual journey changes you as a person and changes your identity. So, of course, by the time you get to the peak, you're a different person.
Completely, and your values have changed. Everything's changed. And I recognize this as well, because when I certainly set up Change Your World, I mean, I went from doing my day job as a radio producer, which, I loved so many elements of my job, but it was starting to get to a point where it wasn't in alignment with my values anymore. And I realized, no, I wanted to do more. I wanted to, I was passionate about personal development and I wanted to take it out to the world. But I had no grand plan about what I wanted to do. I thought, right, let me just do my first conference. It wasn't about setting up a business or anything like that. And, everything that I've achieved since sort of 2018, when I started this journey, I couldn't even have imagined any of it. Like, I hear this a lot when people say, what's your 5-year plan? And I can't do I've never been able to do a 5-year plan, because like, if I give this example, when I was at 2018, there's no way I could have even thought about the things that I've done, because I wasn't that person to create them. So I couldn't, they've naturally evolved and unfolded as I've grown and developed and went, okay, all right, let's, I've had the inspiration, I've had the idea, the conversation with somebody that sparked another idea, or the development that sparked the courage to take the action that's required to go through that. And each time, sometimes it's worked, sometimes it's failed, but each time it's been a learning process to that. And there is a danger if we, of talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as you've beautifully demonstrated with the story of the gold medalist, if you're just so focused on the goal that you're forgetting the joy of the journey. And this is the other thing that I think that both me and you agree on, that we really want to encourage our listeners and our audience to remember the joy, to feel the joy, to cultivate the joy in this journey and this process. And because ultimately, wherever you get to, you want to feel fulfilled, you want to feel peace, harmony, joy. You want to have fun back in your life. You want to have these things, and those things can kind of be sidelined as we go through the process.
That's a good point. We're talking about another big thing for today, isn't it? What we thought we wanted: accolades, success, glory. I mean, I can't tell you, Suzy, how many people I've coached over the years who have reached the point that they thought they wanted to get to, because they bought into the culture story, call it, about you've got to have the biggest car, you've got to have the best house, you've got to have the best marriage, you've got to have the best family, you've got to have the best on the outside, because everybody else seems to be doing it. And yet when they got there, they kind of realized, was the sacrifice really worth it? I never saw my kids grow up because I was at work 16 hours a day. I never did this. I was always away. The sacrifices are so big because we convinced ourselves that the goal is going to be worth it at the end. And I've just been reading the autobiography, which is really interesting, of George Harrison, and there's a little story which I love in there, and he talks about he was sat with Tom Petty, one of the Trevin Wilburys, the guitarist, and they basically were laughing because they said, we tried for years to become successful and well known and wealthy, and he said it's almost like 20 years after you get all that, that there should be a letter that drops through the post to basically say, you might be wealthy, you might be successful, doesn't guarantee you're happy. And I really get that because I coach so many people, not at a stage where I'm picking them up where they're on the way. I mean, that I really enjoy those journeys with clients as well over several years. But I am shocked this last few years, especially since pandemic, where probably over half the people I coach are people that have already got most of what they wanted, but actually realized that they'd bought into the lie that it's going to give them happiness, and it didn't. And now they're trying to reconfigure, recalibrate their lives to be more humble, more grounded, more simple, cut all the big stuff out, sell the holiday, do this, do that, because they realize that they've bought into probably what we've all bought into, which is the commercial brand biggest lie ever going, that bigger is better and it's going to get us happiness, and it doesn't.
Yeah. And I think this is a key thing to highlight, because when we talk about self-actualization, there can be the misconcept that it is all about the big successes and all the rest of it. And it actually, it's not. It's about the deeper connections. It's about having balance in your life, about not being pushed and stretched and pulled from every corner. It's about having time, being able to be present in whatever it is you're doing. And, that can be in all walks of life. We can, it doesn't have to be the big success, a successful family, loads of money, all the rest of it, whatever you perceive that self-actualization to be. It can be just like, again, coming back to, well, what's the values in my life? What's important? And we saw this a lot during the pandemic, where, and I think there's still a fallout of that now that people have returned to the norm, there's a kind of question of reevaluating everything. What's important? And again, it's coming back to those values. And I think it's important to kind of highlight that even if you do reach this point of, oh, I've achieved the goals, I've ticked it all off, and I still don't feel happy, that it's not been for nothing. That's all part of the journey. There's learning in that process, and say, okay, now you've reached that. Okay, now a process of reevaluating, and that's all part of the self-actualization. It's all part of the different levels of the hierarchy of the needs, isn't it?
Yeah. It's about fulfillment. If you look at what people need, keep coming back to, we all want to kind of sense that our life meant something. We all want strong relationships. We want to be loved and give out love. We want to be respected. They're all simple things that we're all kind of almost imbued with, that we need to be actualized. That's what real self-actualization is. I mean, there's a group in America that called the Good Life Project, and they've tracked 3 or 4 generations of people. It actually became a book that came out last year called The Good Life. And what they found is they were trying to get down to the DNA of what makes a meaningful, successful, because success is a contextual term, isn't it? What gives a meaningful, happy life? And they got down to the absolute core of it. And do you know what? The one word that stood out for them all the way through all the reports over 80 years, they've basically tracked all these people's lives for 80 years, 3 or 4 generations, and they literally came down to relationships. The quality of our relationships seems to determine, I know that as a fact, but I can't speak for everybody, seems to determine the quality of your life.
It's interesting. Because it's the people in our life. It's not what we sort of do. It's the connections that we have. And I wonder if Maslow, if he was looking at his model now, whether he would change level 3, which is all about love and belonging and relationships, whether that would be moved up, or whether, he would change his model completely as a result to, that's part of the self-actualization when you've got all your relationships. Because we're talking about, when we've reached self-actualization, we're talking about the relationship with self.
Yeah.
I was going to say you've nailed it. I don't think we ever nail everything and get everything mastered, but you've got to a good place of solid foundations with yourself. You've got good relationships around you, encouraging, supportive role models around you, people that lift you up, support you, are there when you're going through your challenges, but also they're celebrating your successes and your wins as well. There's no jealousy, there's no envy, that kind of thing. And yeah, just when you have that sense of connection with yourself, with the world, with the job that you do, the people around you, and everything you do, I think it's all vitally part of the self-actualization.
I, I think if he was, sorry to interrupt, I think if he was around today, he would say not self-actualization, he would say self-fulfillment.
Mm,
And, like success, what does success mean to you?
yeah.
Self-fulfillment, what does fulfillment look to you? Well, we pretty much know from what we've just both discussed there that relationship, so three level of relationship to ourself. Number two is relationship to other people. Number three is relationship to the wider world. And I would include the cosmos. So animals, nature, the environment, cosmos,
Yeah.
that is the third one. But it always starts with number one, because if you don't work out who you are and have a good relationship with yourself, good self-worth, good self-value, if you don't have that, isn't it funny that you struggle with relationships, number two, with people around you? You certainly don't really care about the environment, sustainability, nature, animals,
Yeah.
cosmos, because you're so wrapped up in your own suffering and pain. So the number one thing, which is kind of wraps this up quite nicely, actually, is that it really comes back to, first of all, working on yourself,
Yeah.
doing the personal development. And this is what Change Your World does brilliantly. And I kind of admire it from afar. And because I think what you do is pick people up and really take them on a journey to try and work through the process. Because if they don't get this personal development bit right, all the rest can't happen, because you're
Yeah.
so caught up with not knowing who you are and bouncing around relationships and divorces and falling out with people and neighbors and not getting on with people at work. You've got to work out who you are first, and the best path to that is a personal development program such as what you guys do.
Yeah, no, well, thank you, Will. I mean, I do absolutely love what we do here at Change Your World, and obviously all this amazing coaches like yourself that support us. I do think if Abraham Maslow was around today, that he would definitely agree that the way our society is set up and the way our governments are set up, they are not there to help people reach self-actualization, and which is why I am so passionate about personal development, because it is about helping people reach personal empowerment and, as my title of my organization suggests, change their world for the better, and create that ripple effect. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you again, Will. Another great session. It's been 5 days of really wonderful advice, coaching, expertise from yourself. If anybody would like to a more personalized approach, you are available for one. Well, we're both available for one-to-one coaching, but if anybody wants to get in touch with yourself, the details are in the description of this post. You also have 3 amazing books. You're writing your 4th book at the moment.
All fun's
So
exciting, all on emotion. So
all on emotions. So, well, let me read it. So we've got change,
time for change.
dying for a change. I was going to change your world. I was like, dying for a change, which is one of my all-time favorite books. I absolutely love this, and I tell everybody about your book. So it's your personal story of your near-death experience and incredible conversation that you had with God, a higher being,
in the
universe,
in the
whoever.
water, freezing to death,
Yeah, and
alone, changed my life completely. Sort of pulled
yeah.
me back from the commercial corporate world into a different world, really. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just yeah, an incredible story, and I love it. And then you've got your How to Create Your Life Story.
Then we've got number three, which was create your own life
Oh, sorry,
story,
Create Your Own Life
and
Story.
number two was the Visionaries, Global Visionaries book, which yeah, they're all very different, but
Mm.
all for
Yes, but
today.
I highly recommend getting a copy of each and starting your personal development journey with those. And your new book, when is that? Do we
So
know when?
that's not going to be finished till later in this year. So yeah, I'll keep you up to date with that.
Yeah, but that's all about managing your emotions and
All about emotions, which really is pretty much what all of life is about. And we're clearly we're seeing this now on social media. We're seeing this in kind of for whatever reason, we're definitely dialing up our emotions more, and we're feeling our own emotions in a weird way. Empathically, we're feeling other people's emotions more. So
mm,
something is going on out there. You know, we don't stay fixed. We do evolve our capacities, and for whatever reason, we seem to be enhancing and dialing up our sensitivity. And a
mm.
big part of that is emotions.
Yeah, it's about raising our vibration and our connection with each other and ourselves. So, yeah,
Yeah.
look forward to reading that. But thank you again, Will. Been an incredible 5 days, and I've loved our conversations as always. So, thank you once again. And to our audience members, our listeners, what action are you going to take? None of this, it's all very well sitting here listening to myself and Will, but what action are you going to take as a result? So take even just one thing to start that momentum and moving through the different levels that we've discussed over the last 5 days. And again, if you need support, both myself and Will are available, as are all our Change Your World everyday coaches. But loved you all. Thanks
Take
again,
care.
Will. Take care. All the best. Bye.